I wasn't able to kind of make decisions and stand by them. I had a really deep sense of sort of imposter syndrome. My confidence sort of plummeted. I was kind of questioning myself, things that I was doing.
Because the moment I was like, no, I'm not going on payroll, I need to invoice. They were like, oh, and let's add, I had my child at 16. So I was more like, no, I can't do that. They're like, child, why is everything wrong with you? You're holding a baby and holding an invoice.
And I spent the money on the offices, and we were getting it all kitted out, and we had a launch and everything, and literally within 4 weeks the turnover plummeted. And I kept thinking next month it'll be better, and started ploughing in money to keep the business going, to keep the staff on.
I didn't really have that much money. I had my savings, but I don't come from a family of privilege. I come from a working class family. So I had all of these kind of barriers that at the time I didn't realise were barriers. I just got on with it and just moved. I moved without thinking. I had an idea.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Stories, where I'm joined by phenomenal women from the world of business who share their stories, their ups, their downs, their challenges, their successes along their entrepreneurial journey. As usual, if you haven't already done so, make sure you click that subscribe button to make sure that you are alerted every time I release a new interview. And if you're not already following, please make sure you follow on social media. On Instagram, I'm at She's the Boss UK, Twitter, She's the Boss INTL, and on Facebook, She's the Boss International, Daniela Gina, something like that. And thank you. Third time lucky. Today, I'm excited to be joined by the co-founder and managing director of SimkissGuy Recruitment, Becky Simkiss.
Hi.
So it's third time lucky because we've tried to do this twice before, and we've had some issues, mainly on my part. One of the times the video stopped recording, and the other time the video that I've recorded just vanished. So hopefully doing it online means that we'll actually get a good interview today.
Yeah, let's hope so. And we're also used to doing things online now for the last 6 months or so. That I'm really confident this is going to work now.
Fabulous. Well, fingers crossed. So tell us about SimkissGuy Recruitment. How did you start it? When did you start it? And what was the kind of motivation behind it?
So SimkissGuy Recruitment started in January 2013. We are an office support and healthcare and graduate recruitment consultancy. We are independently owned, and we cover predominantly the Midlands area, but actually work throughout the whole of the UK as well for those clients that need us to support them on more of a national level. What makes us unique, and for me, what I really wanted to create when I co-founded the business, was a recruitment company that was really based on the values that have been so important to me throughout my career. So prior to 2013, I spent 8 years working in recruitment, and I'd only ever worked for 2 consultancies during that time. And the reason that I was successful in my career at that point was because I was really honest with my clients, which honestly, sometimes recruiters are not generally known for their honesty, but that honesty and integrity and communication and doing what I said I was going to do, and really understanding and listening to people, I think, meant that I was successful. And I really wanted to create a business that really embodied those values of authenticity and integrity. And so we founded SimkissGuy Recruitment in early 2013 with a former colleague of mine, Richard Guy. And the whole premise of the company was about director-led service, about accepting nothing less than outstanding service. We have a complete no sales approach, which in the recruitment industry is pretty much unheard of. Sales is what recruitment is all about. That's not us at all. For us, it's all about people. It's about building relationships, it's about listening, and it's about doing everything that we can to help as many people as we can to either secure brilliant staff for their company, or alternatively to secure a job that they really enjoy doing. Because at the end of the day, we spend a long time at work, and if you don't enjoy what you do, then it can be really tough.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you obviously said that you co-founded it with your business partner. How did the two of you come to the conclusion that it'd be good to do it together? And did you put anything in place to ensure that the partnership worked effectively? I started my first business with 3 other women, and it didn't really work out. And I've come across other people that have started with co-founders, and at some point there's been a rift. How have you managed to to ensure that hasn't happened? And is that something that you kind of put in place from the beginning?
I would really love to say that there was a lot of strategy and thought that went around it, but actually it wasn't. It was a complete accident. So my business partner, Richard Guy, and I, we worked together between 2004 and 2006. I was in my very first job in recruitment, and Richard at the time was a team leader for that business, and actually was one of a panel of 4 people who interviewed me for my very first job in recruitment. So that's always a kind of a nice story that we've ended up where we are now. Subsequently, the company I worked for had a bit of a change in the way that they worked, and Richard moved into, he left that business and moved into an internal recruitment role. But he was friends with the chap who then became my husband. So actually, that's the reason why we stayed in touch. We didn't work together between 2006 and 2013, but we saw each other socially. And the business came about because we were having a conversation at my birthday barbecue, and we were reminiscing about the good old days, about, you know, how it used to be when we all worked together, and, you know, what we do and if the market was any different. And at that time I'd actually moved and been headhunted from the consultancy I'd spent 5 years working for to another business. It took them 2 years to get me to move. And Richard said to me, you know, are you still in touch with any of your old clients? And I said, well, pretty much all of them. They all, without me approaching them, they all approached me and said, we want to carry on working with you. And I remember I was sitting in my kitchen with a glass of wine in hand, which people who know me know that's not unusual. And he said, Becky, why aren't you doing this for yourself? And I remember standing there thinking, I don't have a reason to give you this anymore, because quite a few people have been saying to me at that time, for a couple of years actually, you really need to be doing something on your own, like female business owners that I'm friends with were sort of nudging me in that direction. So that's how it started. And the good thing about Rich and I think, is because actually we'd been colleagues but hadn't been colleagues for a while. We knew each other well enough, but it's not like, you know, we were best friends or really close mates. You know, we were good social friends. And Rich is a very different person to me as well. So he had that internal recruitment experience that brought a nice dynamic to the team, whereas I'd stayed within what's known as agency recruitment. And I can be a bit of a whirlwind, and I'm very outspoken, and Richard is the calm to that storm that sometimes I bring along. So actually we had very, very complementary skills, and he would be the person that I could then say to, how about this, how about that, and just give me that person to bounce ideas off. So I think if there was 2 of me in the business, that would be a real challenge. But because our personalities are so different, it just seems to work. But that was a complete accident.
So a question that I like to ask is always, what was the reaction of the people around you when you decided to go into business for yourself? Because obviously you'd already been quite successful in your career. Did you have people saying, oh, you're crazy for giving that all up?
No, I pretty much universally, people said to me, it's about time. We've been waiting for you to do this. Thank God you've actually gone and done it. There were a few people, probably more family members actually, who they don't know you in that professional capacity. You know, as individuals, we have different roles within the different groups that we're in, and so, you know, my family were maybe a little bit more reticent about me giving up my nicely paid, very comfortable, very secure job to say, I'm going to throw all the savings that we've got at it and try and be brave and do something. But in the business community, I don't think many people were shocked at all.
Were you scared, or were you?
Oh my God, terrified. Absolutely terrified. You walk away from everything that has been comfortable and easy, and to be honest with you, 8 years into my career working for the companies I worked for, it was easy. I loved what I did, but it wasn't necessarily challenging anymore. And knowing that you're going to put all of that on the line, and actually your reputation as well, because I was starting to be well known within the business community. If it didn't work, it was going to be a very public failure. But actually, that's the reason why I wanted my name very much above the door, because if it didn't work, then everybody would know it didn't work. And that was very motivating to make sure that it actually did work.
Yeah, nothing like a bit of public embarrassment to spur you on.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? The way I viewed it is, if I tried and it failed, then at least I tried. And I think it's better to regret the things that you've done than regret the things that you haven't done. And if you had have made that decision 8 years ago to not start the company, then I think I always would have wondered what if.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. And I've been saying that to a few people who've said to me, oh, I want to start a business, but I'm just scared of the what ifs. Well, actually, if you don't, there's only going to be what if. Whereas if you do, then there's different options. Yeah, it might fail, but also it could be a huge success, and you're not going to know unless you step out and actually do it. So I think that's a great way of looking.
And I think, with me, I was creating a business where I already had a reputation and I knew the industry in and out. And, that would be something I would always say to people starting a business. Don't just, I couldn't go off and start a marketing business or an events business because that's not what I do. But recruitment, absolutely. So ultimately, if it went wrong, I would always have my recruitment pedigree to fall back on and could go and get a job somewhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, always better to try something and fail than not try at all, as much as a cliche as that is.
It's true. So, well, leads nicely into the next obvious question that I'm going to ask. You've built up a really fantastic personal brand within the business community in the Midlands. What has been, well, not even what has been, was that something that you sat and put together and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do and here's the strategy? Or is it something that's happened organically just by virtue of your personality?
I think it's more been, it started out initially organically because I approached the business knowing that I wanted the company to be perceived in a particular way, and I wanted, as I say, those values to really mirror the personal values that I've had in my career to date. So I've always been very supportive. I've always wanted to be out there networking, but networking from a view of how I can help other people rather than how people can help me. So it's probably a bit of a hybrid between the two. That is my natural way of being anyway, and I always want to help as many people as I possibly can. But I do work at it and make sure that I'm consistently following through, because it's very easy then to become complacent and stop doing the things that you initially do that actually are creating success, because you get distracted by other things and there's lots of things going on. So I think that for me, it's one of those cornerstones of what makes me a good professional and what makes my business stand out. So it's really important that we continue to do those things and deliver it.
And you do it so well. And I think, as you said, looking from the outside looking in, I can definitely see that it is a combination of your personality and, I suppose, how you've been able to build your business because of who you are as a person. And in terms of relationship building, you're very good at that. It's something that I'm not as good at. But you are the kind of person I look to that I say, actually, in order to build relationships, I need to be a little bit more like Becky and a little bit less standoffish. Sometimes
Actually, thank you.
Can be a little bit standoffish. And actually, leading on from that again, one of the things that I really think has been effective in you building up that personal profile has been your appointments. But talk me through, for you, the benefits of having sitting on some of the boards, etc., that you have, been involved in some of the communities that you have, and how have you kind of approached that?
Yeah, I think that without doubt, without those external appointments that I've taken, I wouldn't have been able to build anywhere near the reputation for me personally or for the business that I have done. And I think that it came from a dual purpose of actually me knowing that in a lot of those networks of people that I wanted to build relationships with. And I knew that if I could get myself into a situation where I was in the room with those people, then I would be able to build a relationship with them, because that is one of the skills that I have. That sounds a little bit, I don't mean callous, but that it doesn't sound as prescriptive as that. It's a case of you meet people, you get on with them, and that's something that I could do. So I knew that there were certain organisations that I had been part of and had benefited me as a young professional, particularly BPS Planning and Future. And so I wanted to become part of that organisation and help other young professionals. And then I knew that as you became more senior within that organisation, you were then sitting around a board table with some of the absolute senior leaders in the city, and people that without doubt, if I wasn't in the room in that capacity, I would never have the opportunity of being able to speak to them. So I think that it was really important for me that I take part in those organisations that were about developing young professionals and giving back and then once I'm in those organisations, that I work hard and then I move into as senior appointment as I possibly can do. So yeah, I mean, it's very easy to get involved in pretty much everything. So I think you do have to pick and choose the organisations that are right for you and the networks that you want to be involved in. But for me, it was certainly that sort of initially that BPS Birmingham Future, BYPY community that I thought was going to be a good route for me to build a brand. And so that's why I became very involved there initially. And since then, because that work, there's lots of other organisations that I have got involved in. And now it's more of a case that I get involved in the organisations that I have a real passion for. And I really believe in what the organisations are trying to do, rather than those are good people that I want to be associated with. Mm-hmm. So with Love Rum, for example, you know, I have a real passion for supporting and shining a light on small charities and hidden gem projects and giving a voice to those who don't have a voice. I'm very passionate about mentoring and professional development. So being involved in organisations that support mentoring is really important to me as well. Mm-hmm. So initially, yeah, there was a bit of strategy behind it, but then as I've gone on, it's been more about doing something that I love.
Mm-hmm. So along your journey, you've had a lot of kind of key successes. Is there any one point where you've achieved something and you've said, Becky, I've made it now? What would that point be?
No, absolutely not. You see, the really annoying thing about me is I'm never happy with where I am and what I'm doing. My husband says that, you know, I could be the most successful person and I just would never ever be happy, because I always want to push myself more and I want to achieve more and do more. There have been certain highlights for me in my career though that are kind of real markers. I think the fact that at SimkissGuy, we secured our first PSL, which is a preferred supplier agreement, with a brand new client that we've never worked with before, through recommendation. And again, the whole business was about reputation and recommendation and word of mouth. But we secured our first kind of big contract an hour after we moved into our office. And I was in my jeans and my jumper and we were putting office furniture together, and I had this call through saying, we want you to come in and sign the agreement. So that was a big marker. I think as chair of BPS Birmingham Future, delivering a keynote speech to 1,000 people at the ICC at a black tie gala dinner, that was a real wow moment when you stand there on that stage and you've got a 15-minute speech to deliver. That's terrifying, but exhilarating at the same time. I had the opportunity of hosting a TEDx event last year. That was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. And then specifically for SimkissGuy, I think that some of the awards that we have won, that external recognition, you know, Business of the Year, Recruitment Company of the Year, Best Small Business, Best Newcomer Business, all of those things have been that external validation that made me think, okay, we're doing something that people like and buy into, and we need to be doing it.
So conversely, has there been a point along the journey where you've thought, oh my gosh, this doesn't feel right, or something's gone wrong, or this feels very challenging, and how have you approached it?
I think for the last 6 months with COVID-19 has been the most challenging, and I mean, there were honestly days where I thought that we could lose the business. Mm-hmm. And everyone says, oh no, you'll get through, you'll be fine, don't worry. But the market just disappeared overnight, and we had zero control over what was happening. So it was a very, very real possibility that if we didn't act really quickly and put some really good, quick decisions in place to secure the business, then we could have been in a very difficult situation. But yeah, that sort of that initial panic of the whole world has changed upside down almost overnight. We had normally we recruit for around about 30 vacancies on any given month, and on one day we had 25 vacancies cancelled because of COVID. Wow. And yeah, so that was a difficult day. I had a very, very large glass of wine that evening. It might even have been that afternoon, to be honest with you. So I think that, yeah, the last 6 months have been really, really challenging. But prior to this unprecedented situation that we're all in, I've always seen challenges as an opportunity, and I think that's helped us to deal with it. Having a business, your success isn't linear. It isn't that you open, you build up, and then suddenly all these fantastic things happen. You have ups and downs, and hires that don't necessarily work out, or ideas that don't work out, things that don't go to plan. But I think that you can learn from everything. And so there's not been a key moment where I thought prior to COVID, oh my God, this is all going terribly wrong. But there's certainly been things that have happened that I thought, that necessarily wasn't a great idea, and maybe we need to rework things. How can we change it?
The last 6 months have been difficult, very difficult for everyone. And I think having a kind of understanding, as you said, of the fact that just generally things are going to go up and down, and this might just be a temporary down, and hopefully we'll come back up from it. I think that's a really good approach to all challenges. And I think not enough business owners, particularly in the early stages, don't seem to recognise and understand that. So I speak to people all the time who are in like the first year or the first 2 years, and they're like, why is it so hard? Why do these things keep happening? And I'm just like, it's just all part of the journey. Obviously, COVID was an unexpected part of the journey, but I think for me, one of the positives that I've taken out of it is the fact that we all are kind of in this together. So it's not just me, everybody else, and not just even in the UK, around the whole world, everybody else is in a very similar position. So I think that's definitely also a takeaway that I've had. Just doubling back to what you said about you never feeling like you're at that point of success. It's interesting. I did an Instagram live yesterday, and also did like a pep talk with one of my clients this week about that the issue a lot of the time when we're high achievers is that we're always looking ahead at what the end goal is, and we're always pushing ourselves. But actually, sometimes I think it's really important to stop and look back, and not always look forward and look back and say, well, I was here in 2013, for example, and now in 2020, look at all I've achieved. So I would implore you to spend some time doing the same, because obviously we met in 2013, and to see the growth of the business for me has been phenomenal. So pat yourself on the back and take a minute, have a glass of wine and say, actually, I have achieved a major success. It might not be the pinnacle yet, but you've achieved a lot. So well done to you.
Thank you.
3 pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who's watching this, who has recently started a business or wants to start a business. What advice would you give to them?
So, 3 pieces of advice. I mean, I could talk for ages on this anyway, but what I would say is, firstly, whatever business you want to create or whatever business you have, make sure it's something that you know and you love and you have a genuine passion for, because as an entrepreneur or business owner, you will work harder and longer, particularly in the early days, and will have more ups and downs than you would expect, and it will be a lot of hard work, blood, sweat and tears. And so if you don't have that innate enjoyment and passion for what you do, then it will feel really like hard work, rather than the lucky situation I had, which is I love what I did, and therefore it didn't feel like I was working all of those hours, because it just the sheer joy of creating something that was so bespoke and so much a part of me was amazing. So the first piece of advice I would definitely say is create a business around something you know and that you have a passion for. I would then say know what makes your brand unique and what makes you unique, and work really hard to build and develop those things, and do it all with nothing less than 100% integrity and authenticity, because people will see if you're fake, and people will remember if you let them down. They may not say it to you, but they will remember. So, you know, your business's brand and your personal brand is so important. And it's important actually that your business has a brand outside of you. You know, you need, as an owner, you need to be the figurehead of that, but your business brand needs to stand on its own 2 feet, rather than being intrinsically linked to you as well. So, authenticity and integrity in everything, without question. Even if sometimes it means that you have to do things that aren't a quick win, aren't making you the money quicker, faster. If it doesn't feel right in your gut, then don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the third piece of advice I would say is, I would say trust your gut instincts, because you know you, and you know your business, and you know your market. And as I say, if something doesn't feel right, it's not going to be right. But also just give back as much as you can, and get involved in and help as many people as you possibly can, because people will remember that. And if you put enough good stuff out there and you try to be as helpful to as many people as you possibly can, it's amazing then the goodwill that you start to get. There are so many people who say great things about SimkissGuy Recruitment because at some point in the last 8 years, we might have done something or said something or connected them with somebody else, or it might not even be something we remember, but if you do good things enough, people do remember it. And that giving back really creates so much goodwill for your company. So I know technically that's 4, but I hope that's okay.
No, it's perfect. The more advice, the better. And that was fantastic advice. So thank you for that. She's the Boss recommends. I'm asking everyone I interview to recommend one book that they've read, and it can be business or it can be a personal development type book that has really had an impact on you that you would like to recommend to the She's the Boss audience.
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, most of the business women I know have read Lean In, and I think that's again, I don't want to sound like a cliche, but for me, it was really refreshing to read somebody's story, and it was so personal and such an emotive journey to understand that even in a very, very senior position in Facebook, in a global organization, that woman has struggles and was sat at tables where she felt that she didn't have the courage to speak up and then regretted it afterwards. And I've been in those situations, so not Facebook, of course, but I could absolutely relate to it. So I think that Lean In was quite pivotal and instrumental for me. And if I'm allowed a second one, I'd say that Deeds Not Words as well, which actually, you can see it there. I'm really, really passionate about women using their voice and fighting for their rights and standing up for themselves. And I think Deeds Not Words was interesting for 2 reasons. One, because actually we haven't come as far as we potentially think we have in the last 100 or so years. And just the amazing inspirational stories of these women who were fighting they truly believed in and had such a passion for, I think is truly wonderful. So I'd say those 2 books. Helen Pankhurst is the author. In fact, there you go, so you can see it there. So Deeds Not Words, Helen Pankhurst. She is the granddaughter of Emmeline Pankhurst.
Oh, yes.
Of course, is the very well-known suffragette. I had the honour and luck to meet Helen Pankhurst last year, and she is an absolute force of nature, and to have that kind of family history was amazing. So yeah, it's a really good book.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. If people want to find out more about you, about SimkissGuy Recruitment, what platforms can they find you on?
So you can find us on our website, firstly, which is SimkissGuy.com. You can also find SimkissGuy on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and also on Instagram. For me personally, it's at Becky Simkiss on Twitter and SimkissGuy on Twitter as well. I mean, we're kind of everywhere, really. So if you just do a bit of a Google, you can generally find something to do with us. But SimkissGuy.com is our website, and that would be the best place to head to firstly.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to doing the She's the Boss Revisited in 10 years when you say, Daniela, I've made it now.
No, it won't happen. I'm like, Daniela, it's still not good enough. I'm still not there.
No, but it's been great talking to you, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And thank you everyone for watching, for listening. As usual, make sure that you make sure you share, write a comment if there's anything that Becky has said that has resonated with you. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already done so, and make sure you tune in next week Sunday at 8 o'clock for another She's the Boss female entrepreneur story. And if you are a woman at home watching or listening and you want to be part of the series, please drop me an email to Daniela@she'sthebossintl.com. Thanks for watching.